Hey, good afternoon, evening, morning, whatever it is for you. Josh, Alex, and another edition of You're Blocking the TV. We are back after a little bit of an absence there. We were gone for about 6 weeks after Christmas. And, for a number of reasons, it had just gotten very difficult to come talk to you folks. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Of course, there's a lot to it, very complicated stuff. But there is also a lot going on in the sports world. Alex, chiefly right now, we're fresh off of a Super Bowl that was boring during the game, but everything surrounding the Super Bowl, the halftime show, the alternate halftime show, all of that stuff, not so boring.
Yeah, that as well. I mean, commercials was getting ranked within the family chat, saying which commercial was the best as well. But more than anything, it was just a good time to get together. We had my brother-in-law and grandparents over, so really small gathering this year, all things considered. And yeah, the Super Bowl was terrible. I really chalk it up to how long the season is now. You look at getting 2 weeks off in between the conference championship games and then the Super Bowl for teams to get healthy and really have the best players playing against each other. I don't think May was playing at 100%. I don't think we fully heard what's going on with the shoulder. And I think the wear and tear on these guys' bodies with the elite speed and force that they have really took away from the game. And I think we're really starting to see the last couple Super Bowls have been pretty bad. I mean, we've had some overtimes, but there hasn't been just that elite talent, those heavy maker matchups that we saw growing up. And maybe that's just me once again aging myself and getting older, or just starting to see that these players ran out of steam coming down the stretch and towards the end of the year. Played through some brutal games in the snow. Seattle had some good weather leading up, but other than that, man, it was a complete dud of a game.
How does it make you feel to watch a guy who is younger than, I'm pretty sure both of us, definitely younger than me, lead a team as the head coach to a Super Bowl championship? That is cool. And also, I'm like, can I sue over this?
Absolutely.
Because,
You
I
start to look
mean,
back at what path did I go down? Where were my mentors at saying, dude, you're 25. Like, you got to get it together. Get your life
if you
together.
ever want to be an NFL head coach, you've got to get going, kid.
And
There
I
was,
thought
there
I had
was
it. I thought I
There
had it
was nobody.
together.
There
I
was
thought
nobody in my life that ever. I just.
I thought my
I
skim
just.
tapes from the bowels of Morningside College and the radio station, and then the cassette tapes that I had and sending them into ESPN. I was going places. I was
I
putting in
mean,
the
I
sweat
was
equity.
playing. I was playing Madden every day. I was leading teams to championships. I just. I don't know. I don't know what the disconnect was, but suffice to say, we never made it, and kudos to them. Yeah, I. It's hard for me to root for the Seahawks, of course. I did not have an NFL team when I moved out to the Pacific Northwest. Surprise, surprise, the majority of NFL football fans out here are Seahawks fans. And, they weren't good for a really long time. And then all of a sudden they were with the Legion of Boom and Russell Wilson and all that. And Pete Carroll leading the way. And so when I decided to choose an NFL team, it was either them or the 49ers because I felt like I should establish a fanship, a team to root for, and it's still very low on the list for me.
Sure.
I'm definitely more of a just into fantasy football, but I will watch 3 or 4 49ers games a year. Unfortunately, they are, unless you pay extra, they're often not on here because they're in the same time slot as the Seahawks. So the Seahawks are always on, and but when the 49ers play in prime time, you get to watch them, etc. But when I chose the 49ers, it was because I did not want to join the bandwagon of Seahawks fans because they were so good at the time, and I just didn't feel good about that. And I think when you're a kid, you can choose a team because they're good.
Sure.
As an adult, I don't think it's reasonable to do that if you're going to choose a team.
You
So I
know,
chose
I
the 49ers, who were historically good but were really bad at that time. And The rest is
That's
history.
that's fair, but I also lead back to the impact that Seattle's had on just the 12s, raising the 12 flag, being really engrossed in their fan base. Like I think as a fan, that's what everybody wants. That's what I would want from my team. Is it's kind of corny, but when they come out, it's because of you guys, the fans, and then they go into the locker room, they're like, I couldn't even hear them. I tuned them out. It's such an important game. It's loud. We'll play wherever it is, but it is pretty cool that they have the march to the stadium, have the 12s involved, and then you look at just the Patriots fan base where they were just such a garbage franchise for so long, and maybe there is some jealousy involved in there, having the Celtics, the Red Sox, all of the Boston Bruins being so good that you're like, just get out, like the East Coast bias, like
Yeah.
go away. I don't want to hear it.
You've had plenty of championships in your life. I don't care if it hasn't been football, but of course it has also now been football a lot, because of a guy named Tom Brady and another guy named Bill Belichick. Yeah. So what I will say though is because I didn't really have a dog in the fight, I wasn't directly rooting against the Seahawks. I feel like I was kind of 50-50 there. But I would say, rooting for Sam Darnold, because I think it was such a great story for a guy that was drafted very young. I think he was 20 or 21 years old when he was drafted out of USC. He was an early or first round, or he was a first round pick, but I can't remember if he was the first overall pick. I think he was. But when you are that guy, you now get the weight of an entire franchise placed on your shoulders at a very young age, and the expectations are extremely high. And just because you go draft that big time quarterback doesn't mean you're going to build the rest of the franchise around it. And that's typically what we see with the New York Jets, with the Carolina Panthers, although they had a respectable season this year, with the Oakland Raiders, now Las Vegas Raiders, etc. And so for him, he went from the Jets, who did nothing to make that franchise, better around him. The expectations were all on him. He goes to Carolina, which was also a mess, horrible ownership. And then he has his redemption in Minnesota, seemingly. But then they're like, well, but we got this younger guy who we wanted to start over you, but he got hurt. So now we're going to start him. Sorry, there's just not a place for you here, Mr. 14-3, just out of here. And then he goes to Seattle. And the complaints that I hear from Seahawks fans all year long about, oh, well, if only we had a good quarterback, blah, blah, blah. Sam Darnold, he's trash. And then, he leads them to a Super Bowl championship. And, leads them to a Super Bowl championship, of course, is probably, it's not fair to give him all of the credit for that. Obviously, it wasn't, that defense was elite. They had a great running game. They just did a lot of things really well, very consistently, but he held his own. And I thought he was more than a game manager this season, and certainly in the playoffs, he was very good. So, my salute to Sam Darnold. I'm very happy for him to have gotten the monkey off of his shoulders after so long.
Hats off. Still has a very punchable face. The dude didn't even really smile after winning. I don't know if he was still surprised that he actually made it, but there were multiple times I was like, dude, Darnold, like, still just, if I saw you, it'd be that, hey, you kind of deserve a sucker punch coming your way. Don't really know why. Don't know much about you. Don't know anything about you personally wise, but just something about your face.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, again, the game itself was just like, it was like, all right, the Patriots do nothing. They give Drake May 0 seconds to throw. Then the Seahawks march, kick a field goal, and then repeat that a bunch of times until the game got late. Patriots, I think, got a little tired, and then there was a turnover touchdown. There was a couple other items that went down as the game just kind of got away. But even if, and you heard the announcer say the same, they felt like if it was 9-0, it was over.
Oh, and I was just going to bring that up.
That's exactly how it felt.
Also, sign of a terrible Super Bowl when your main guy's saying, "I just feel at this fourth field goal, it's just over," and you're going,
"You have a defensive,
you're absolutely right.
Lineman touchdown." There was a lot to like in there if you really dissect it. But for me, the big thing was everything surrounding the halftime show leading up, because Bad Bunny was announced as the guy that was going to headline that halftime show almost a year ago. like what, 10 months ago, 9 months ago, somewhere in there. And ever since then, it's been nothing but, oh, can't they have an American? Can't they have somebody who speaks English? Can't they have somebody who's a better role model? And we'll talk about the nonsense that is, but I just thought that it was an incredible show. It was so well produced. There was so much to it. And it had such a great message too at the end. I mean, really, really
And
did.
I think they had multiple moments where the NFL could have had those times of, oh my goodness, are they going to cut his mic? Like having I didn't realize Green Day was opening the show, opening the party, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going, that's an interesting stance from Goodell. That's interesting, allowing them. And, are they going to stick to the lyrics? Are they going to throw another line in there to get their name on mainstream? I mean, this really started, I think, going back to the Timberlake and Jackson Super Bowl, where you're ripping it off and it's like, whoa, didn't
What's
expect
that been?
that.
20 years? Somewhere in there?
At least, at
I can't
least.
even, I have to look that up now. I can't
And
remember when
I
that
think you
was.
go all the way back to that as being a defining, like, did they do that for publicity? Did he know that was going to happen? That wasn't in the rehearsal. There was a lot of questions,
2004,
and
22 years ago.
my goodness,
Wow.
yeah. And I just
Holy
remember that
smokes.
exploding, and that was before really social media, and being able. It was just all on the news and talking about it at school, and everyone just being like, "What the heck was that? Did I see what I just saw?" And I think it really could have gone a much different direction. Honestly, if he even had his mic turned on after his opening song there, and then did American Idiot for Green Day, had his
Hmm.
microphone on, welcome to Super Bowl. Really thought I was like, man, I would have put money on Kalshi to have him say something unhinged and
Yeah.
really put Green Day back on the map. So I think when you look at it from the perspective of the actual theatrics in the show, like that's what the Super Bowl's been about: is bringing people together, bringing cultures together. Learning that Puerto Rico is a commonwealth where as soon as they turn 18 over in Puerto Rico, they have to enlist with our military as well, and big part of World War II and all the wars that we fought, and they don't get the same benefits that Americans do. So they still fall under America, don't get all the benefits, have to go to war for us, and
Yep.
struggle. So there's a lot of discussion about the power lines and, oh my goodness, why would they even show that? Kids are going to be going up and no, they're not, guys. Like,
I kind of wish that they had done maybe something to kind of replay the paper towel chuck that DJT did when he did his appearance in Puerto Rico. During that time, he's just like, "Here's some paper towels, and here's paper towels for you." And I'm like, "Wow, what a good man to
right.
be there throwing paper towels in this hurricane." That it's really going to help. And just, but of course, the thing is like, and this is the frustration for me, is there all of the reasons to be anti that halftime show are built in ignorance, just a lack of knowledge. And then, what comes from that, which is, fear gets in, hate comes out, and none of it makes any sense. But the fact that so many people in our country, in mainland, and like in the 50 states, if you will, do not understand that Guamanians and Puerto Ricans are US citizens. They are Americans. They don't get it. They and I think there are still people that have heard that now, because of course it's out there, because that's the conversation around, like, how dumb are you? There are still people that like are disputing that in some capacity, or are denying that. And it just,
Yeah, I heard some talk about bringing all the other flags in, naming all the Central American countries and Canada, and there, the thesis around it was those aren't Americans, and I was like, you're missing the point. We're all
I mean,
together.
they
We're
literally are. We're not the only ones that get to claim it just because we're the United States of America. Uh, that's South America, Central America, North America. We're all America. And, when I was growing up, I didn't really understand that distinction. But really, what it is it's American exceptionalism, and the belief that, well, but we're first, we're number one. So, And unfortunately, and we can talk all day about this, but we're going to get
Yeah.
back to sports. But
Well, and
um,
I think too, I'm going to compare Mario Balotelli to Bad Bunny now. So excuse me, it's my podcast. I can do whatever I want with the people that are listening. But the Italian, when they had the opening on ceremonies for the Olympics, I didn't understand a word out of that man's mouth. But
who
holy cow,
cares?
was it beautiful.
Who
And I
cares?
could go and look into it. I could, have a translate. We have translator apps now. I had a player on my team just yesterday that joined my competitive team, just moved over from the Middle East. Didn't speak a word of English, but we were able to communicate through soccer and through a common bond of, hey, here we go. Can you kick it here? Can you pass it here? Can you move? And I think to bring it back to sports that's what brings all of us together. We
Hmm.
claim, we claim to have this world championship for the Super Bowl, right? We're the world champions. We're the world champions for baseball and having the World Series. We're going to have the Caribbean Series, and we're going to have the four nations. We're going to bring all these other nations in
We're
and
world
try to
world
show
champs
that
in the
we're
NBA, world champs in the NHL.
yeah, we're going to try and show
Um,
that we're connected, but no, if you don't speak our language, if you don't have our cultural aspirations, if you don't have the same food as we do, like, I don't, and it turned into a lot of people are saying like showing your true colors and just saying, yeah, I'm going to go see the other guys on YouTube and listen to Ba with a Ba, and you want to talk about values and personal traits and what you want to bring to your family. Just look at some of the lyrics that were on that broadcast. It was never about I just don't like that music. Because when
right.
I see a lot of those people at on the border or at Los Dos for Trios out here in Colorado, they're dancing. They're dancing in their seats, having their margarita, and they don't, they're not saying this is America. Why aren't they playing Kid Rock in here?
Right.
We're a culture, we're a melting pot. I think it touched me a little bit more that it was Puerto Rico, and I had a first generation Puerto Rican in my grandma in my house during the Super Bowl, and just to watch the joy in her face, to be seen. You look at people of color in our country, just to be seen is important, not even having the same rights. This was a moment for us to come together, and again, it just turned into a division piece, and it was really sad to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I agree. And the the stuff that like also gets me, like I think about something that Trevor Noah said a long time ago in one of his stand-up specials. This was, I think, right around the tail end of when he was leaving the Daily Show. And I always thought, Trevor Noah did such a fantastic job on that show. He was different from Jon Stewart, and it took some getting used to because I love Jon Stewart so much. But Trevor Noah was really such a great guy to have on there because he was not an American. And so he really brought, I thought, a more global fare or flavor to that show, which I think everything kind of needs because I really struggle with this idea that like we're at war with so and so and we're butting heads with this country and with that country, and we have a global economy. We are trade partners with all of these countries with some exceptions. China is this supposed big problem, but we send basketball stars to go play over there. We send baseball stars to go play over there. We manufacture all of our goods there. I don't, it's such a disconnect for me on how that could be a thing when that's also a thing.
Can you
Um,
imagine Major League Baseball coming up this next season and just being like, we're just going to have an American league, meaning you have to be born and raised in America in order to play Major League Baseball?
Boy,
It would be gutted.
would not be much. And it takes me back to what I was going to say that Trevor Noah had said, which was, if you're not okay with people of other diverse cultures, then you don't get to eat any of their food. No Mexican food, no Chinese food, no Thai food, no Mediterranean food, none of it. You can't have it. You can only have American food. Only food that is, you know, American. And then what
Yeah.
you find when you start to like dig into the origins of so many of these foods that we in our minds, this is American food. This is what's on the American food menu. It's all inspired by something from somewhere else. And the reason for that is that we all came from somewhere else.
Yeah.
We all brought that stuff with us, and then we combined it and we moved. Just because we did it here doesn't make it any more American than any of the other stuff. And then when you look at like Mexican food specifically, the reality of what Mexican food from Mexico is versus what we call Mexican food here. The Mexican food here is largely an American creation. The same with the Chinese food that we eat. And it goes on and on. And it's just this idea that everybody has to be alike, and it makes no sense
Yeah.
to me. I
I, I think the last thing I want to add is I think the hardest part for me is none of us chose where we were going to be born.
Mhm.
So, I'm going to be vulnerable here. And I got, picked on a lot for having hairy arms and just having, I had my competitive team call me out. They're like, Coach, why don't you have any hair right here? And I was like, you know what? It's because of y'all. Y'all did this to me. I didn't want to tell you, but it's not there anymore. And as I've continued to grow and evolved through college and now having kids of my own and living where I am and being incredibly blessed and lucky, like none of us chose this. So I'm having a really hard time understanding, hey, in a sport, the Red Wings logo makes my blood boil. It comes from a deep rooted hatred of two goalies that met at center ice. But at the end of the day, I see a little girl, standing, at the glass, seeing all of her heroes decked out in red with the Red Wings logo because that's what her dad did. That's what her grandpa did. So she's going to be a Red Wing fan. And the point of that is just to support a common good of something that's around them. There's no support here anymore. There's no support when you go to a Bronco game. It's divided 50-50 by what's gone on in our country and what's happened without any of us being, before we were born, being like, you know what? America looks good. Like, I'm going to be born to these parents in America. I'm going to give myself an opportunity at life, not getting under the political lines of we need to have closed borders and walls. And yeah, there's certain intricacies to all of that. But at the end of the day, we're on this crazy planet for, hopefully most of us 80 years. And it should be as easy as just get along and hope each other move forward and realize how lucky we are to be born in this space and time together. And it's sad that something like the Super Bowl that used to bring all of us together, that was water cooler talk for everybody, where, there were billions of dollars wagered because it's so easy to get access. It was a talk about a halftime show. And I think that performance was one of the shorter halftime shows that I remember. It felt like it was 6-7
shorter.
minutes.
It was shorter than the TPUSA halftime performance.
Yeah.
So
He made his point. It was beautiful. The real wedding, which was awesome,
yeah.
kind of turned to each other and goes, "Babe, I think that's a real wedding. Like that looks legit."
I loved the guests. I mean, I was never like a Ricky Martin fan when I was a kid, but I mean, he was very popular when I was a teenager, and
Yeah. Jessica Alba's, Lady Gaga's appearance, it was awesome.
I saw Ricky Martin in Palm Royale. I don't know if you watched that show on Apple TV. It was very entertaining, but he played basically a butler or a servant. And but the first thing I see is I see somebody sitting there and I'm like, wait a minute. Is that Ricky Martin? And it was.
Yeah.
Lady Gaga in there, and yeah, like you said, Pedro Pascal, and I think Cardi B was in there. I just thought it was such a great like celebration, and I know everybody in that stadium was rocking, and I just think we need more of that pure joy. And I think if people would, instead of raising a hand to bat down somebody's beliefs or coming up with something horrible to say to somebody else about who they are, where they're from, or anything like that we should all just share a drink and dance and just be joyful. I mean, what else, what other point is there to us being here? We're not here to fight and hate and just be, and what a miserable existence it must be to just truly to have these groups of people that you actually hate. Because I don't hate them. I oftentimes am disgusted. I feel some pity. I understand how we've come to this in many ways. But there's no hate over here though, right? I mean, I just don't hate. And so I just wish we could get over it. So on that note, let's talk about baseball because we're getting into pitchers and catchers reporting basically as we speak. The first set of teams had pitchers and catchers report yesterday, more today, and the rest tomorrow. And of course, baseball, a sport that is very global, and especially in the Western Hemisphere. Um, but more and more in other parts of the world, like Asia. It is truly a global sport. It is not America's pastime anymore for many reasons. One of those, to me, though, is what a global league our Major League Baseball league is here in America. So many Dominicans, so many Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Venezuelans, Japanese, Chinese, Taiwanese, Korean, so many Koreans. And to me, that is so much of the fun. My favorite player at present and for a long time has been Jose Ramirez for the Cleveland Guardians. And I swear to you, that guy's been in America, playing every year for 12, 13 seasons at this point. And he still really doesn't speak English. And guess what? I don't care. It's like part of his personality. It's part of who he is. And part of what is kind of funny about him. It almost would be ruined if he did speak English.
Yeah, I'm going to post it on our page after this. But one of my favorite interviews, I forget who was doing it, but I believe it was Mariano Rivera, and someone was like, what was your upbringing like? Like, how did you get into baseball? And he was like looking around, and he found a 6-pack box. There was a 12-pack box, and he broke it down. He's like, look, and he bent it over, and he was like, hit it, and he goes, that was my glove. Like, this was my glove for 10 years growing up. And it was a sport that this is all I needed to go out and play with the boys in the neighborhood, the girls in the neighborhood. We found a stick, a 2x4 that someone took all night to shave down into a bat. We did all these things to make it relevant for us to play a game anywhere and everywhere. And I think we all grew up, trying to hit something, having that hand-eye coordination, throwing something up and seeing if you could hit it. So it's still, hope springs eternal. For us in Rockies land, Chris Bryant's on the 60-day DL, so I don't have to worry about his butt for 57 games, which is just awesome. He's played 170 games in the 3 seasons he's been there. So he's just a joy to have around. Excited for another Rockies season. And
Would you rather
guys.
have Tony Two Bags, Anthony Rendon as your third baseman instead? I mean, is that a fair toss up though? I mean, really,
I think that's a fair toss up. Yeah,
the Angels
sure.
have gotten next to nothing out of that guy in 4 seasons, I think.
The hard thing is the Rockies just need a poster boy. They just need someone to bring some excitement to the. We're not expecting wins. You're not expected to go win the World Series. This is the easiest job in the NL, especially in the NL West. Something that I haven't been paying too much attention to. I'm not even sure if there's been any updates, Creekmore, but is there going to be a realignment? Is that really still on the books? I would absolutely love that shakeup for the Rockies.
I think the conversation is still being had about expanding the league by 2 teams. Where those teams will be is still a matter of some conjecture, I believe. Obviously, we've talked about my hope that one of those teams could be here in Portland so that I could have season tickets and go whenever I want. I've already told my wife that I would probably be attending 20 plus games per season, maybe more, and to just get used to the idea, which of course I think has led to her probably deep down hoping that we don't get a team. And I
was going to say, is she on the other end rallying against it?
I do think we won't get one. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Salt Lake City is somehow going to end up with one, but there will be a West Coast team, and I think an Eastern half team. Odds on probably Nashville. It sounds like to me, but when you expand to 32 teams. Now, all of a sudden, you can move to a division model that is comparable to the NFL, to the NBA, to the NHL, which are all 32-team leagues. And I think the bigger picture, though, for me, whether or not a realignment helps teams like the Rockies or even teams like Cleveland, is more of a money conversation than anything else. And being able to get to a point where there is some form of salary cap, some form of limitation on a really, really rich, large market team being able to just buy it. Because let's be honest. I mean, the Dodgers, I like a lot of the players on their team. I have a ton of respect and love for Shohei Ohtani. I love Mookie Betts, love Freddie Freeman. Um, but what they have put together and what they continue to put together is it's not fair. I mean, it really isn't. And to make myself feel better about it every year, I talk about how fun it is to be a very underfunded franchise that still goes toe to toe with these teams and is able to beat them sometimes and
Absolutely.
is able to compete when it all comes down to playoff time. We get mowed over by teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers and et cetera, et cetera. But it is fun to at least feel like, you can go get it. But when we look at who is winning world championships, it's not these teams that are underfunded. And so I think as a league, Major League Baseball is in danger of losing people from a fanship standpoint because eventually because it's always felt like these small market teams were up against it. That's been true for a long time, but there was still a chance. And, every couple of years, a team like that would win it all. It just was never my team, but now it's impossible.
We
Nobody
should do
is no.
a deep dive into the dynamics between MLB and NBA because I feel like NBA has tried to do this with the second apron, the first apron, the luxury tax. The Nuggets they're screwed. They really
Mhm.
can't make any moves because if they do, they're a repeater tax and they lose their first round pick and then it's just done.
Yeah.
Whereas it just continues to be the richer get richer in the MLB. They continue to see names. Been getting buzzed on my phone and my watch, going, oh, another person went to the Blue Jays, another person went to the Dodgers. It's the same teams you hear year after year after year. Whereas the NFL, I feel like the NHL to a certain point as well, you can only be good for 4 to 5 years before it catches up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. We call it the window. Um, and I've been very lucky as a Cleveland fan, and I think Cleveland has been very fortunate. They have had a great front office. They've had great management to be able to make the most with the least. But really, that window you're talking about having your stars on their first contract. You need a lot of guys on their first contract in order to be competitive with a salary that low. And that means you're hitting a lot on your prospects because after their first contract, when they get into free agency, they're ending up with New York, LA, Chicago. All of these rich teams are they just buy them up. So you grow them up, then you export them to a bigger market, and then that's just how it goes.
Right.
And that's been the case for a while. Cleveland has managed to, I think, minimize how much of this we have, and it's been a smoother thing, but we haven't been very competitive. We've been able to sneak into the playoffs, win the Central Division, but in those years, oftentimes the Central Division is the worst division. There's so many things that have happened that they make you think that you have a chance, but you really have never.
Well, let's put it this way: the Dodgers have bulletproof glass, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and then you've got teams Cleveland, Rockies, Royals to a certain aspect. It's a single pane. They might get
Mhm.
lucky. They might block some wind, some rain, some snow, find a way to get through, but it lasts for such a finite amount of time that
Right. And you
they
look
can't
at
consistently be good.
2016 when Cleveland had just a Cinderella year. I mean, I still am in awe of what they were able to do because they had a 20 game win streak that year. The following year, they had a 22 game win streak. Um, but that year in 2016, they go up against the Cubs, who were loaded. They had Epstein as their GM, or I should say Epstein because he doesn't go by Epstein, I don't think. Not the same guy. I don't think they're
Str-
related.
Strong
Um,
move.
yeah. Um, but I mean, they were loaded, and we were going up. We had guys like Rajay Davis platooning in center field, right? I mean, a journeyman who was an unlikely hero in that game seven, against Aroldis Chapman, and all of, and yet, I mean, in spite of all of that stuff, we had this much chance at the end, and we just couldn't quite get it done. But our margins were so thin, and that's I think what you see is when those margins are so thin, your chances are so low. Is there a chance technically? Yes, because even bazillion-dollar superstars can make mistakes and can play poorly on any given night. And if it all happens together, you just never know. But I think more and more we're seeing just dominance by about four teams where they're really the only teams that have a shot. And then outside of that, it's kind of over. So, but for me, going back to sports and the excitement about every new season, and baseball is always very exciting for me. I get excited for the beginning of baseball season. I get excited for the beginning of football season, and they connect the whole year through for me. And then in the middle, you have college basketball, which I get excited about, especially when the Nebraska Cornhuskers are like the darling of the NCAA right now.
Surprised you brought them up after this week.
Hey, look, if we're going to go down by 22 points in the second half and come back, almost win it in regulation, send it to overtime, still, some heartbreaking stuff happened. You got to feel good about where they're at. And 3 losses to 3 quad 1 teams who right now are projected as a 1 seed, a 2 seed, and a 3 seed in the tournament by a combined 15 points.
You're in a good spot.
You just got to feel. I mean, there was a point where we were like, are we going to go undefeated? Seems like we could beat everybody. We're just finding ways every game. And then, we were undermanned against Michigan, and then still pretty undermanned against Illinois the second time. And then, Purdue just came in. They were what a great job scouting and executing a game plan, because from jump, we were there, and they're just like, boom, 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 boom. And then before we know it, we're down 22. We're like, oh.
Good learning lesson. You can bring that to the dance. You can put that on some film. Like that.
Yeah,
that's good things to have.
You'd rather have that come now in the regular season than in the Big Ten tournament, or especially in the big dance. But
Absolutely.
Anyway, that like helps kind of connect the end of football with, especially if you're really more focused on college football, the end of football to the beginning of baseball for me. And that's just sort of my life as a sports fan. Right. Those 3 things are the things I care the most about when it comes to sports. And we get excited at the beginning, and there's cause for optimism at the beginning. And I can remember when we were doing this show last year at the beginning of baseball season, we were talking about how do you think they'll be this year? And that's part of the fun of it. But for me, going back to what we said about sports uniting people, first of all, they divide people. But the people that are in a fan group are united. And we can overlook all of a sudden all of the other differences that we have, because we're all cheering together for our favorite team. And
no matter what you think, it's different when an Avs fan, a guy with an Avs sticker on the back of his truck, cuts me off than, a Detroit Red Wings sticker. I'm going to react 100%. A lot different. Hey, you're having a rough day. I get it. Go Avs. It's all good. I mean, the Roll Tide commercials from, I'll say a few years ago, it's probably a decade now, but everyone leaving the store, Roll Tide, Roll Tide. Really similar. I'm lucky this year I get 2 NHL opening days because the NHL players are playing in the Olympics right now. So taking a 3-week hiatus, which is you get in that rhythm of watching an Avs game every 2 days. And even my son going, Dad, when do the Avs play? When's the Avs on? Where's Nathan McKinnon? I'm like, well, buddy, he's on Canada. We don't. Why? Why is he doing that? Does he leave our team? It's like, he's over the Olympics, if you can imagine, for a 5-year-old. He's ready for
Yeah.
something new. But to get another opening day and a second half of an NHL season is very exciting. Hopefully the boys come back relaxed and get on the roll again. But yeah, I mean, it's been, spring. It already feels like spring in Denver. We've got 60s all week. We've seen, 2 snowstorms all year. And sports is what keeps conversation going. And especially when things are going bad, when you don't want to talk about anything else, you don't want to talk about family or what's going on, it turns, how about them Broncos? How are the
Yep.
Nuggets doing? Oh, did you catch the game? It's just the easiest thing to talk about. So, we certainly want to keep things light on our podcast and give you the information that you need to talk around the water cooler, but also we need to start bridging that gap. And America was a place where we were brought up to stand up for your beliefs, stand up for what you believe in, and that you were safe and protected here. There's a lot of talk about the amendments and which one we should cater to more than the other. And I think at the end of the day, our forefathers would be pretty disgusted as to what they fought and battled for in a lot of different places around the world and even here in our own country. Keep it on sports and also keeping focus on that we can come back together, and it's going to take a
Yeah.
long time, but we can do it.
Yeah, and just what sports mean to us as a population, right? They bring the world together. Talking about the Winter Olympics, like that's not an America thing, right? I mean, there are a lot of phenomenal athletes that work extremely hard and then go represent their countries, and everything is on the line for them. Like this is their whole life, and it's very special. The Winter Olympics and the Summer Olympics alike. And to be able to represent your country, and going back to some of the comments that have come from some of the American competitors, some of the booing that has happened in Italy, and you understand it. And of course, to hear your government and certain pundits criticize you for having those conflicted feelings, I just like be a human being, be a human being. And I think if you really lead with humanity and caring about everybody, then none of this stuff is a problem. And I'm over it. But to Alex's point, we wanted this particular show. That was one of the things that was hardest for us over the last 6 weeks, and it hasn't not been hard before, but our goal was to try to give somebody some kind of distraction from everything that was happening, and ourselves included. But it has just gotten too hard to just pretend like nothing's going on and like everything's hunky dory and sports when everything is going on. And again, going back to the sports side and how much of a distraction it is and how much we care about it, with everything that's going on, Alex is still looking forward to the next Avs game, and probably creating your schedule, your social calendar around that, even with your big family. And I do the same thing. And it's in me. It's in us. And we care about it. And we need something like that as an outlet to care about and to be inspired by. And that, for me, that has always been the basis for everything when it comes to sports, is the inspiration that we get from the achievement and the united feeling, the togetherness that we get from being part of that fan base, and ultimately, honestly, feeling like we're part of that team. It's a we. I don't know any of those guys, right, or gals, but I feel like it's us. And it just makes you feel a lot better when the day or the week or the month has sucked.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can't say it any better. It really is meant to be light. We're going to bring on guests coming up again that don't agree with our same beliefs, that have different opinions, and I'm committed to being open to those and having some banter and some discourse. Heck, I went to nationals for speech and debate. So you want to talk about Lincoln Douglas debates? Like, it's okay. We're going to walk away.
I didn't go to nationals. I was a state champ though.
Okay.
I was on a state championship team, part of a program that has quite a pedigree, but no, we didn't go to nationals or anything fancy like that.
I got lucky. Student Congress, I was able to make some friends and do things the right way. I was just the goofy kid that liked to keep it light. But I think that's the
I
That's the
somehow
goal.
believe that. I just it's easy for me to believe. But yeah, anyway, so we've got obviously baseball getting going, pitchers and catchers reporting as we speak, which is an exciting time every year. We're getting ready for our fantasy baseball drafts. We've still got like seemingly 7 months of NBA left. I think the NBA season continues up until about 2 weeks before it starts back up again. Um, People talk about how long the Major League Baseball season is, but I just feel like the NBA season goes on forever.
They get a
But
lot of days off.
yeah, they do. They play half as many games, obviously, so it's a little different. Um, but yeah, so a lot to be excited about. We're moving on from football into, well, unless you're a spring football fan, which still hasn't really taken off yet, but you know we've got March Madness coming up. We'll have playoff basketball and hockey coming up after that. And just lots to look forward to. And I think remember that there's always something to look forward to later today, tomorrow, next week, whenever. And if you just keep that in front of you, keep on keeping on, then we're all going to be okay.
Yep, absolutely. Quick note before we sign off too, wearing this shirt. Had a buddy that went through a tremendous health scare, so make sure to get your health screenings done. Go and get that prostate checked. Colon cancer is definitely on the rise, so get that looked at. Throw in a little Moxon video tonight, maybe a Dawson's Creek. Sad news about Vanderbeek today. Just tough as you get older to start recognizing the people that are passing. And I definitely know that Varsity Blues was one of those like coming to fruition movies for me in high school and growing up and knowing that, hey, we all going through similar things. So stay unified. Make sure you're getting checked up and taking care of those things. So thinking about your daughter and make sure you're taking care.
Absolutely. Yeah, when I saw that news earlier today, I just was like, I mean, he had been very vocal, has a big family, a lot of kids. And it was, you kind of just knew based on the way that he was speaking that he knew he didn't have much time, and obviously chose to spend that time divided between his family, but also trying to build awareness and look to the future for the people that are left over, the ones left behind like us. And Fred Hoiberg in his post-game presser last night, it was a different topic, but he talked about having open heart surgery and especially as a man, getting regular screenings for various things, seeing a doctor if something doesn't feel right. Like, don't be afraid to go to the doctor. And I know in our country it's expensive. It might cost $2,000 just for a hospital visit or a doctor visit, but it is important. You can't, especially when you get to be 40 plus, think about what you're leaving behind and how they'll feel if you just missed it.
Don't skip it.
Yeah.
Read those signs and get in.
Anyway, for now, don't block the TV, and we will see you all again soon. Thanks for tuning in.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.